Alarms tore through the ship before I even opened my eyes. Red light washed over my quarters, and the floor trembled under my boots as I ran for the bridge. The conquered fleet was gone. Every Allied ship that had promised to stand with us had jumped away in the night, leaving nothing behind but empty space and a silence that felt heavier than any explosion. I am Elena Marsh, sensor officer aboard the Kestrel's Vow, the last human warship in this sector. When I reached the bridge, Captain Priya Okafor was already standing at the command console, her eyes fixed on the main screen. A wall of red dots filled it, spreading like a disease across the star charts. The Vraltek swarm armada, thousands of drone ships, moving as one mind, heading straight for 3 human colonies that had just been left to die. "They're gone," said Daniel Voss, our communications officer, his voice shaking. "The Concorde fleet jumped out an hour ago. No warning, no goodbye, just gone." I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Somewhere on Ashvale, one of those 3 colonies, my sister Grace was asleep, unaware that the only protection she had left was one aging cruiser with a skeleton crew and outdated weapons. "They called us expendable," Daniel said quietly. "That's the word the Conquered Council used, expendable." Captain Okafor did not turn around. Her voice was calm, but it carried a weight I had never heard before. "Then let's prove them wrong." I had grown up hearing that humans were the youngest species in the galaxy, the least experienced, the least trusted. Other fleets moved in perfect formation, spoke in calm diplomatic tones, and looked at us the way an older sibling looks at a child who still needs supervision. We were never invited to the real meetings. We were tolerated, not respected. And now, when the real test came, they had simply left. But Captain Okafor did not look like someone who had been abandoned. She looked like someone who had been waiting for this moment her whole career. "Elena, give me a full sensor sweep of the approach corridor," she said. "I want to know every rock, every gap, every blind spot between us and Ashvale." My hands moved fast over the console. The data came in waves, and slowly a plan began forming in my mind, before the captain even said it out loud. The asteroid field near Ashvale was massive, chaotic, and almost entirely unmapped by alien tactical systems. Other species avoided it because their ships were too large and their sensors too rigid to navigate it efficiently. Humans, on the other hand, had spent decades flying through debris fields for mining operations. We knew how to move through chaos. "Captain," I said, "if we can pull the swarm into the asteroid corridor, their coordination might break down. Their drones fly in tight formation. That field will force them apart." Okafor nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I was thinking." Our engineer, a wiry, quick-talking man named Owen Bright, burst onto the bridge with grease still on his hands. "Whatever you're planning, I need to know now. Our railguns are running at 60% efficiency, and the reactor's been complaining since the last patrol." "Get me full power to weapons," Okafor said. "We're not running." Owen blinked, then a strange grin spread across his face. "Well, it's about time somebody said that." The next hour felt like the longest of my life. We moved the Kestrel's Vow toward the asteroid corridor, using every scrap of cover the debris field offered. Owen worked miracles in the engine room, rerouting power from non-essential systems to keep our weapons at full strength. Daniel scrambled every communication channel he could reach, sending automated evacuation alerts to the colonies, buying precious time for families to reach shelters. I watched the swarm armada grow closer on my screen, a living storm of metal and hunger. Their drone ships were small individually, weak on their own, but there were thousands of them, moving with a terrifying, unified purpose. At the center of the formation was a larger vessel, the command drone, the source of their coordination. "If we take out the command drone," I said, thinking out loud, "the rest might scatter, lose their sync." Okafor turned to look at me, and for a moment, I saw something new in her expression, not doubt, but consideration. "That's a Concorde kill tactic, reserved for capital ships with full escort wings. We don't have that luxury." "We don't need an escort wing," Owen said from his station. "We need a fast, small ship, and someone willing to fly straight through the middle of that storm." Silence fell over the bridge. I felt the weight of what he was suggesting settle into my stomach. "I'll fly it," said a voice from the doorway. It was Marcus Doyle, one of our shuttle pilots, young, barely out of training, with a calm certainty that surprised me. "I know those shuttle engines better than anyone on this ship. Give me a straight line and I'll get there." Okafor studied him for a long moment. "You'll have exactly one pass, no second chances." "One pass is all I need," Marcus said. The plan came together fast after that. We would lure the swarm into the asteroid corridor, using our ship as bait, drawing their formation into the tightest, most chaotic section of the field. While their smaller drones struggled to navigate the debris, Marcus would take the shuttle on a straight run toward the command drone, using the confusion as cover. As the swarm entered sensor range, my hands trembled slightly over the console, but I forced myself to focus. The numbers scrolling past me were almost impossible to comprehend. 50 of their ships for every one of ours. Steady, Okafor said, not to me specifically, but to all of us. We've trained for chaos. This is chaos. We know how to handle it better than they do. The first wave of drones entered the corridor, and immediately their formation began to strain against the scattered rocks. I watched as several drones collided with debris, their coordination faltering exactly as I had hoped. Now, Okafor said. Owen fired the first volley from our railguns, striking a cluster of drones at the edge of the formation. The impact sent a ripple of confusion through their ranks, drones veering unpredictably as their central coordination tried to compensate. The Kestrel's vow shook as return fire slammed against our shields. I gripped my console, watching the numbers drop, our defenses weakening faster than I wanted to admit. Shields at 70%, I called out. Keep them coming, Okafor said. We need them fully committed to the corridor before Marcus makes his run. I glanced at the secondary screen showing the shuttle's status. Marcus was holding position just behind a large asteroid, waiting for the right moment, his small craft dwarfed by the storm of drone ships surrounding him. More drones poured into the corridor, drawn by our continued fire. Our ship banked hard, weaving between rocks the size of buildings, using the terrain in ways their rigid formations could not match. I felt a strange thrill beneath the fear, a sense that we were doing something no one expected us to do. Shields at 50%, I reported, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Marcus, go, Okafor said into the comm. The shuttle shot forward, a tiny silver dart weaving through chaos, heading straight for the massive command drone at the heart of the swarm. My heart pounded as I tracked his path on the screen, watching drone after drone try and fail to intercept him in the tangled debris field. Almost there, Marcus said, his voice tight but controlled. Owen fired another volley, drawing enemy fire away from the shuttle's path. The ship rocked violently, alarms blaring across the bridge. Hull breach on Deck 3, Daniel called out. Emergency seals engaged. I forced myself to keep my eyes on the screen, watching Marcus close the final distance to the command drone. My throat tightened as I saw drones converging on his position from every direction. Marcus, you need to move now, Okafor said. I see it, he replied, and there was no fear in his voice, only focus. The shuttle released its payload directly into the heart of the command drone, and Marcus pulled away in a sharp, desperate turn, weaving through the debris field as explosions bloomed behind him. For a moment, everything on my screen seemed to freeze. Then the command drone's core lit up with a bright flash, and the entire structure broke apart. The effect was immediate. Across the battlefield, drone ships that had been moving with terrifying precision suddenly scattered, their movements becoming erratic, confused, disconnected from the central mind that had guided them. Their coordination is breaking down, I shouted, hardly believing what I was seeing. They're losing sync. Owen let out a triumphant shout from the engine room. Now's our chance. Hit them while they're scattered. Okafor gave the order, and the Kestrel's vow surged forward, our railguns firing in rapid succession at the disoriented drones. Without their central coordination, they were far less dangerous, their attacks disjointed and easy to predict. I watched the battlefield shift in front of me, drone after drone falling out of formation, some crashing into asteroids, others simply drifting, lost without direction. It felt like watching a storm lose its wind, the chaos slowly settling into stillness. Marcus, report, Okafor said, urgency in her voice. There was a tense pause before his voice crackled through the comm. I'm alive. Shuttle's damaged, but I'm alive. Relief washed over me, but I did not have time to fully feel it. The battle was not over yet, and there were still drones scattered throughout the corridor, some regrouping into smaller, disorganized clusters. We spent the next hour clearing the remaining drones, working together with a precision that surprised even me. Owen kept our weapons firing despite the strain on the reactor. Daniel coordinated with colony defense forces on Ashvale, guiding remaining civilian ships to safety. I tracked every remaining enemy signature, calling out positions as the swarm's remnants tried and failed to regroup. By the time the last drone ship retreated into the depths of space, silence had returned to the corridor. But it was a different kind of silence than before. Not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of survival. We had lost people that day. 2 crew members in engineering, caught in a power surge during the height of the battle. Their names were Callum Reeve and Priya Nandan, and I will not forget them. Their sacrifice made our survival possible. and I carried that weight with me long after the battle ended. When the news reached the wider galaxy, it spread faster than anyone expected. A single, outdated human warship had broken a swarm armada that outnumbered us 50 to 1, using tactics that other species had long dismissed as reckless or unrefined. Ships that had once looked at humanity with quiet condescension now sent transmissions requesting details of our strategy, our technology, our willingness to fight in ways they had never considered. Captain Okafor received formal contact from Concord representatives within days, apologizing for the withdrawal, offering renewed alliance, promising support for future conflicts. I watched her read through their messages with a calm, unreadable expression, and I wondered if she felt the same quiet satisfaction I did, knowing that we had earned this moment, not been given it. For me, the real victory came in a simple message from Ashvale, confirming that my sister Grace was alive and safe, along with thousands of others who had trusted a small, overlooked warship to stand between them and destruction. I think often about that night, about the silence that followed the Concord fleet's departure, about the fear that gripped me as I watched the swarm armada fill our screens. We were left behind, dismissed as expendable, treated as an afterthought in a galaxy that had never fully accepted us. But in that abandonment, we found something the Concord never gave us, the freedom to fight our own way, using the skills and stubbornness that had always defined humanity. We did not wait for permission. We did not wait for validation. We simply did what needed to be done, together, as one crew, refusing to let go of the people counting on us. The galaxy had abandoned us that day, but by the time the sun rose over Ashvale, it was clear that we had not needed saving. We had saved ourselves, and in doing so, we had shown every species watching that humanity was never as small or as young as they believed. From that day forward, when the Concord spoke of alliances, they spoke to us as equals, and for the first time since I had joined this crew, I felt the quiet, steady pride of knowing that we had earned our place among the stars, not through permission, but through the simple, unshakable choice to stand and fight when everyone else had run.